But soon the pounding and flying of hammers will soon turn into the pounding and flying of baseballs. But as the players tell us, these type of cuts right here often have many more similarities than differences. And nearly 20 of these cans of paint will be used to line and number the field in preparation for the contest. Now, the athletic department would love to build a multi-purpose arena adjacent to the dome, but there's just one problem. Now, the mood tonight here in Pullman at Martin Stadium, it's a somber one. After the 5th-ranked Washington Huskies, they come into town for the Apple Cup and keep their playoff hopes alive. Now for where it all begins for softball and baseball players alike, the Little Leagues. The season finally underway here today at Airport Park. Usually duck hunting is done through the air, but on Saturday the Cougs ground game was one that made the Ducks want to migrate for the rest of the winter. The Seahawks offense has been MIA, yet to generate more than 28 points with the exception of the game against the 1-7 San Francisco 49ers. Maybe what the Seahawks needed to get their offense clicking was the resurgence of Jimmy Graham and going to the big man early in the second when Graham says, "Look, Ma, one hand!" A spectacular catch that's worth a couple more looks. What's even more compelling about this play is that Graham was being interfered with by Robert Blanton. A huge game in the White Pine League tonight. Troy Trojans and their rowdy crew invaded Genesee and owned the night from the start to finish. It's Jimmy Gilder, checkmate. Then it's Abby Bloom again. My goodness, is she good. 22 kills on the night for Bloom. Troy sweeps away Genesee in straight sets. Bengals hanging around, doing it on the defensive end. First, it's Tristan Bradley with the rejection. Then the Bengals get out in the open court where they are oh so good. Riley Way with the floater. He had 20, and the Bengals trailed by 3 at half. And then on the run, it's Justin Oliveris wearing those Barnacle Boy deep sea specs to cut the Seahawk lead to 3. But too much of this guy this afternoon. Tyler Blowen right back at you. But Post Falls response. Jacob Fennings, I don't need no stinking haircut. It's Linehan. Spuds for everyone, and the route was on. Matt Linehan trotting into the end zone. Less than 3 minutes later, it's Matt Linehan going up top to his tight end, Dion Watson. And Dion, he gonna do Dion, wearing his PF Flyers down the sideline. 74 yards later, the Vandals find themselves in charge. But in the 6th, Miranda, well, he leaves it up, and Chad Pinder with the biggest home run of his career, because it's the only home run of his career. The 24-year-old ties it at 1, trying to spoil any hope Seattle has at a spot in the postseason. But in the 7th, Mike Zunino says, I'll take that, Mr. Liam Hendricks, and with it, I'll deposit it over the left field wall. Zunino's 12th. Now, the Idaho Vandals, they struggled from the field, and let's just say that the Vandals couldn't throw it in the Pacific Ocean if they were standing on the sandy white beaches of the Santa Monica State Beach. Idaho shot 32% in the first half, and it got worse in the second. A lot worse. U of I hoisted up 35 shots in the second half, only connecting on 7 of those. But the Vandals got superior outside shooting tonight. Geraldine McCorkle, all 3 of these. U of I held a double-digit lead heading into the second. Then that's when Taylor Pierce caught fire. First from the top of the key, then Pierce will call distance. No calling card needed. Remember those things, folks. Number 14 finished with 22. Robert Smith Jr. and the Warriors looking to go back-to-back against Faulkner, and a home run derby erupted tonight at Harris Field after a J.J. Robinson solo shot in the second. It's Micah Brown. Get down with your bad self. Brown's 5th of the season, and opened up the Warrior lead to 2. It was homecoming in Lapwai tonight, and folks, I have no idea why there's a golden retriever running around on the field, but he could have been playing for Clearwater Valley, and it wouldn't have helped them very much. 4th and goal from the 2. Just kick a 19-yard field goal, and you go ahead with under 5 to play, but they're going to score a touchdown here. Hunter Landris, though he can hang on in the end zone. Sultan would get one last chance to win it with 2 seconds to go. Kyle Mason for 39 yards out. It's not even close. And we had overtime. It was a damp night in Pullman into the 3rd quarter. Clarkson trailed 21-3, but all of that about to change. A.J. Davis hits Nick Robinette in stride. He trots 32 yards for the touch, and Pullman, they were up 21-10. Next Greyhound possession, it was 4th down and 2, and the Hounds will go for it, but A.J. Davis, look at this tackle, cutting down Ben Moose. It's been an awfully challenging season for Richard Petty Motorsports in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Both Eric Almirola and Brian Scott sit outside of the top 25 of the driver standings with just one top 5 finish to show for themselves through nearly 90% of the season, but all that changed on Sunday. Both Richard Petty Motorsports drivers took home top 10 finishes, with Scott, a Boise, Idaho native, coming home with a career-best second-place finish in the Hellmann's 500 at Talladega. You could see the blue and white number 44 Albertsons Ford look to the outside before diving to the inside in an attempt to get around the 22 of Joey Logano out of turn 4 on the final lap of yesterday's race. It could have been one of the biggest upsets in the history of the sport if Scott would have been able to pull off the aggressive move, but he came up just short, finishing second, and the 28-year-old rookie spoke about his performance afterwards.
Just trying to get any bit of a bright spot in this year has been difficult, and I think that this is by far the brightest spot that we've had in a really challenging 2016 year for Richard Petty Motorsports. But just proud. I mean, the guys have worked hard all year. They've deserved a lot better finishes than we've given them, and just proud to deliver a good, solid top 5, to do my job behind the wheel to give us a shot at the win.
The season continues next week for Scott and the rest of the Sprint Cup Series when they head north to Martinsville, Virginia. The Idaho Vandals men's basketball team returns just about everyone from a team that won 21 games a season ago, and tonight we got just a taste of how good the Vandals could be. The NAIA's Frontier Conference preseason darling was the visitor at Memorial Gym tonight for Vic Sanders and co. And right out of the gates, the Idaho Vandals getting defensive. It's Sanders with the theft. He rises and slams for the first bucket of the night, but the Saints answer. You may remember this guy from last year. It's Zach Taylor, and he's yet to get a haircut since the Frontier Conference tournament. His 3 gives the Saints a 5-4 lead, but it was all Vandals from that point on. Here, Trayvon Allen's going to feed Brayan Blake at the post. He rises up over Ryan Imhoff, and then more offense from the Vandals. This time, Pat Ingram's going to nail the long-distance jumper. He finished with 8 points, and finally, Jordan Scott measures and hits. The Vandals weren't flawless in their execution, but they pick up the W as expected, 80-62. The Washington State Cougars also in play just 8 miles away on the Palouse. They were hosting the Toreros from San Diego, who came in with a 4-run record. Looking the part early when Aubrey Wardell glides to the cup for 2, but the Cougs, they have a gal who can glide as well, or shall I say spin. It's Borislava Hristova. She led the way for Wazoo with 19, and the Cougar lead was 1 after 1. Second quarter, and this is when Maya Hood really flipped the switch for the Toreros. Pull up Jay in the lane, then coming out of the locker room, it's Hood with the theft in the lane. She goes coast to coast and led all scorers with 27 on 13 of 18 from the field, and San Diego continued to close the gap. More from Wardell, who does a little glass work with a kiss. Then it's Wardell knifing through the Cougar D and knocking one down with a hand right in her grill. She finished with 10, but it was the 3-point shooting that was the difference for Wazoo. They tripled the output of 3s that the Toreros had, and this Alexis Swedlin long ball does San Diego win. Cougars are 5-2 after the 83-73 win. Davin Jackson is a quiet kid from the Northwest, but if you need a friend, you've got one in Davin.
I'm huge-hearted. I love it. I love everyone.
But this huge-hearted senior from Northwest Indiana has a skill that few could only dream of.
It's just been a sport I've been addicted to ever since I was 3 years old.
Davin, who throws as many as 20 games per week to own his craft, is not planning to further his education as many of his former classmates will.
The more I kept going to bowling and the more I kept improving, my main goal that I want to do right now is the PBA. Everyone wants to learn how to make a name for themselves. Well, this is how I want to make my name. I really want to put myself out there and be known as one of the best bowlers there can be.
The man who spends some of his free time playing video games has been in contact with the Professional Bowling Association, and he has no plans of looking back. But he knows that he's far from a well-oiled machine.
It would be probably my emotions, trying to keep myself straight up, trying to keep everything aligned with how I bowl. But I think the hardest part is the pressure it brings on.
The righty, who uses situational team bowling as a way to improve during pressurized situations, states he's heard it all in his quest to become pro.
I've heard from a couple people that they don't think I will make it or I'm not good enough to be in it. But from my friends and family, I've heard a lot of encouraging stuff. Come on! Woo!
Jackson will travel to Cleveland in July to compete in the Junior Gold Championships and has compiled a season average of 204. That's only about 10 pins off of some of the top PBA competitors, and Jackson said he's closing in on his first 300 games.
I've thrown two 299 games. It's bad, it's depressing, but it's what it is. I'll try for even harder for next time.
For some, it's not easy.
This is hard labor, and you know, you could feel it. It's a grind out here.
But everyone embraces the challenge.
We're working as a team because, I mean, in every aspect of loading wood, stacking wood, and chopping wood, I mean, we're one unit.
The fundraiser that dates back to the Ed Chef days requires players to prepare and deliver firewood to customers of the LC Valley. All proceeds go to the LC State baseball team thanks to the generous donation of the wood to the program from Guy Bennett Lumber Company of Clarkston.
It's big to offset our scholarships, and you know, we're not a fully funded program.
An LC State baseball player can take 100, 200, maybe 300 cuts per day during the off season. But as the players tell us, these type of cuts right here often have many more similarities than differences.
It works your muscles a lot more. I think it benefits our swings.
The grip is the same. Swinging them all kind of attacks different muscles that you're not used to using, so I'd say it benefits us.
If you could bust through some of these logs, shoot, all you gotta do is square up a baseball and it's gonna go out of the yard for you.
The fundraiser, which runs through the end of the month depending upon demand, has more reasons than just raising funds.
Biggest thing when you get a group of guys off the baseball field, definitely start appreciating your teammates. If a guy's not splitting his wood, it's going to slow the process down. We'll be out here till dark. So, you know, guys have really bought into the fact that not only is it helping out the community, but it's helping out our team too.